If not, we can move on to the high school project update.
Yes. So next, I am very pleased to introduce representatives from CHA and from Schrader Group Architects. I'm sure we will hear from Mr. Slaughter at some point as well. I guess we'll kick off first here with Mr. Weiss from Schrader Group. Good evening, Eric.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Weiss. I'm a project manager with Schrader Group Architecture. On behalf of the entire design team, appreciate the opportunity to share some updates to the high school renovation project this evening. As you know, bid package 1 well underway in construction. Bid package 2 will be kicking off in construction soon. So tonight we'd like to share some of the design updates to bid package 3, which is the final of the building related bid packages, and then wrapping up with bid package 4 on some of the site items in the future. Next slide, please. You can jump to the next one too. Yep.
Another one.
So we'll start by just kind of highlighting some of the scope areas for this bid package. In short, it's the rest of the building. So we've covered A through E pods in bid package 2, K pod in the auditorium, bid package 1. So bid package 3 kind of working right to left in the plan here alphabetically through the pods. We have the F pod addition, which is the new performing arts addition, kind of bridging C and F pods. This addition not only provides some modernized spaces for the performing arts programs, it also provides an additional path of circulation throughout the building, connecting C and F pods, kind of alleviating some of that E-pod clog and providing some more opportunities for students to work through the building. Continuing on through the plan, the auditorium itself, I know at the May work session, this was one area that we hadn't really fully developed yet, so we're excited to show you some images of that space tonight. Full facelift, all the AV and technology upgrades in that space, so it'll look and sound brand new. The auditorium lobby, you'll see some images of that space and how that's developed, and then the concourse connecting down through to the main entry lobby. New security vestibule at the front of the building, similar to some of the upgrades we've seen at the A-pod addition at the back of the building, and then just new finishes, new systems throughout the concourse area itself. Continuing on J-pod, for those of you who have or haven't seen, earlier on we discussed bringing the fitness center down from the gym loft onto the first floor in J-pod as the art programs in J-pod are moving to the A-pod addition. So the original plan was to maintain and add to the existing J-pod structure, but after working through some design iterations, considering some of the structural complexities with kind of renovating and modernizing that space, as well as just the general inefficiency of the circular structure of J-pod, we kind of went back to the drawing board and considered, what if this space was a new addition with the existing J-pod demolished in a more efficient structural layout that would provide opportunities to really modernize the space in a new and efficient structure, in a more efficient footprint that allowed us to build a new construction addition versus renovating the existing space at the same price point. So after working through some design iterations with our team members at CHA, we were able to come up with a solution that did not add anything to the budget and still provides the required space needed for that fitness center. So you'll see some glimpses of that space as we walk through. It's still kind of in development, but you can see the general footprint and that circular space, the circular line there, which indicates the existing footprint of the existing J-pod. Continuing through athletics, auxiliary gym, and wrestling room, more or less staying in their existing footprints, upgrades to the locker room spaces adjacent to those ADA accessibility upgrades, new finishes throughout, and then the aux gym and the wrestling rooms themselves, new equipment in those spaces, but kind of maintaining their existing functions. The gym lobby, you'll see some nice upgrades to that space, really providing new opportunities for both students and public. So it's kind of an 18-hour space. So for PE during the day, public events at night, really providing a lot of opportunity in that area. And then working back through G-Pod, the gymnasium, an area that's still under development. We've got a lot of good feedback from the athletics department on how that space will be fit out. We don't have any images of that to show tonight, but we will in the future. Just know that those are well underway. The same kind of upgrades to the locker room spaces adjacent to the gymnasium. And then finally back into the tech ed area, keeping a lot of the existing tech ed spaces, but again, new modernized equipment and technology in those areas, and providing modernized educational spaces for students. You can jump to the next slide. Fewer second floor spaces in this area, but again, working right to left, FCS classrooms on the right-hand side of the plan, kind of shown in blue there. Again, new modernized equipment for those spaces, providing accessibility upgrades to them. The health classrooms in green, kind of adjacent to the auditorium in that space, they're receiving the same kind of typical classroom layout that we are providing throughout the rest of the project, but just know that that's where those are located in this bid package. And then, as you can see, the fitness loft above the gym will now be replaced with a mechanical and storage space, as it's not a accessible space. There's no elevators or anything up there, hence moving the fitness center down to J-Pod. So that's kind of a quick overview of the scope areas for this project. We can jump into some of the imagery now. Next slide, please. So we'll start with some of the academic spaces. Just for these slides, kind of a similar layout to what we showed back in May. Little key plan there with the blue dot indicating where in the building you are, and then a before shot of either that exact space as it exists now or the space that it's kind of replacing in this bid package, and we'll touch on those as we go through. So second floor F-Pod, the textiles FCS classroom, working a lot with the end users on these spaces on how they wanted them to be fit out. So kind of perimeter workstations in these areas, and then centralized kind of group work areas, as well as plenty of opportunities for display, for demonstration. You can kind of see that mirror display area in the back corner of the space. So these areas were really dictated by the faculty and staff that had a lot of really great input on how they should be laid out. Next slide, please. Still in the FCS area, the cooking lab. So you can see pretty similar to layout to what's there now, but again, modernized equipment, accessible workstations for those that may need them in these areas. Some additional technology, so things can be put on display above the teacher's workstation, and just really freshening and modernizing these workspaces, in addition to the enlarged windows that you've seen throughout the course of the project to bring more daylight in as well. Next slide, please. So then jumping to we'll call it the CF edition, the Performing Arts edition, connecting C and F pods. Kind of a somewhat unfair before and after photo, but the photo of the existing band room before. So these are replacing the existing tiered music rooms that you have now. So these are fully accessible spaces. The existing tiered classrooms are going to be infilled, which not only provides, again, accessible spaces, but opportunities for the ability to move equipment and musical instruments easily from those performing arts spaces to and from the stage and into the classrooms. So really just kind of streamlining that process. But you can see in the classrooms themselves, kind of right size volume for these performing arts areas, the higher ceilings, acoustic treatments throughout. We're working with our acousticians to really tune these spaces, not only to isolate I won't call it noise, the beautiful sound from the spaces from the adjacent classrooms, but also really tuning the interior sound specific to the band, the orchestra, and the choral. So those are some of the details we're working out in these spaces, as well as plenty of area for storage and display throughout as well. Next slide, please. You'll see a lot of similarities as we jump through these, but some kind of nuanced items between the various performing arts rooms. So the choral room is kind of a multi-purpose. It can be used, in the tiered kind of performance setting or in more of a classroom layout. You kind of see both in this image here. But again, opportunities for display, the really dedicated acoustics in these spaces, and plenty of daylight as well. And finally, the orchestra room. In the addition, again, same ideas in this space. You can kind of see the existing C-pod beyond kind of the intersection of C and E-pod, so that's kind of where that sits in relationship to the existing building. But really similar kind of on paper, but when you dive into some of the details, especially with the acoustics and some of the dedicated storage in these spaces, they're really focused in on those specific programs.
If I may, real quick, Mr. Weiss, this is almost like tongue-in-cheek. So you see that picture there of the orchestra room. I want to be clear that North Penn High School does not have an orchestra room. So that's a stage in the Audion that we use for orchestra right now. The picture you see above is an actual orchestra room. So, great.
Yep, next slide, please. All right, so jumping into the auditorium. So full cosmetic facelift in this area, new technology, new audio, sound equipment, new stage rigging, some seating reconfigurations. You'll see spaces for accessible seating areas. Kind of in the foreground on the left-hand side, you can see there's a couple house monitor stations, so some of that light and sound mixing can be brought out in a more kind of intimate, tuned-in location out in the house area. And you'll see lighting upgrades throughout, all new seating throughout, a reconfiguration of the seating layout that kind of is a more modern approach to an auditorium seating. Currently, that center aisle, the center of the auditorium is the best space to sit in a performance setting, and right now it's taken by an aisle. So kind of reconfiguring some of the layouts there to provide that optimum location. Next slide, please. Here's a view from the stage. You can see the solid plaster ceiling is gone, so kind of a more open, airy feel to the ceiling space itself. The side walls are a combination of reflective and absorptive wall paneling that we're working through the design with our auditorium consultants to really, again, tune these spaces acoustically to make sure they're optimized for performance. Next slide. The balcony is a lot about railings. So the kind of the front edge of the balcony, if you've ever been up there, me as a tall person especially feel relatively unsafe approaching that front balcony guardrail. It sits about 2 feet off the ground. So one of the upgrades we're providing up here is a new glass guardrail that sits on top of that knee wall up to code compliant height to not reduce any of the sight lines from the balcony, but to provide a safe environment up on the balcony as well as added handrails, added guardrails across that front row of seats in the front to just provide a more safe and comfortable environment up on the balcony space. Next slide. So then jumping out into the auditorium lobby, you can kind of see the before and after of this space here. One big noticeable difference, the blue, I think it was an existing, or originally a ticket booth and concession stand, which I believe is now Mr. Berger's office, which is kind of like plopping a house in the middle of a freeway. So that space is removed to kind of open up this corridor, maintaining the existing auditorium entrances, but we are providing another set of double doors outside of the existing, so there's kind of a light and sound lock to reduce any interruptions during a performance. If you'll recall, you'll see a lot of similar upgrades to finishes, lighting, how we're kind of treating the space to some of the other public areas around the building. The idea is that even though this project is phased out over 5 years of construction, in the end we want it to feel like it was designed and built all at the same time. So really trying to create a lot of similarity between some of these public spaces to make it feel as cohesive as possible. Next slide. Kind of just looking back the other direction, back toward the concourse, some of the feedback we heard was some additional areas for seating in this space. Again, just providing those opportunities for students to sit and gather, whether it's during the school day or before and after a performance, just kind of providing those opportunities within the space. Next slide. And then just one kind of close-up shot of the kind of the back of the auditorium lobby. You can see that glass wall beyond. That is a new connection out to the courtyard, which connects directly back to the rear of the APOD addition. So if you can imagine some of those lobby renderings that we showed of the APOD addition and the discussions about, connecting through the courtyard from APOD to FPOD, this is where that connection would happen. So opening up some of the office space that sits there currently, and not only providing those opportunities for circulation, but also some additional daylight into that space. Another kind of improvement here, the stair you see on the right there, there's an existing stair that's located here in a stair tower that is relatively underutilized, and the thought here was to provide an open stair that gives a visual cue and connection to bring students up to the second floor of FPOD more immediately than having to travel back through the rest of EPOD, again, trying to reduce some of those circulation challenges that happen at certain places within the building. Next slide, please. This is a quick look at the concourse. No major reconfigurations here, just again trying to provide some a little bit more life in these areas, a little bit more color, maintaining these as places for students to gather and socialize, kind of the main thoroughfare coming in from the main entrance of the building. Next slide, please. So this is moving back through JPOD, and this is where you're going to have to start using your imagination a little bit. The before picture here, the rendering is actually taken slightly to the left of this, so if you can imagine that wall that you see in the center of the before picture, that is actually the line of round columns that you see in the rendering, so that is the existing exterior building line. So as part of the JPOD addition, we're not only providing the space for the fitness center, the trainers area, and concessions, but also widening the corridor between the auditorium and gym lobbies. And the idea here is that, obviously improvements to circulation, giving a wider thoroughfare through those spaces, but allowing this J-Pod corridor not just to be a hallway, but to be an extension of the two lobby spaces, so events and gatherings can kind of spill into this space, providing a nice transition between the performing arts and the athletics areas. Next slide, please. So then jumping down to the gym lobby, you'll see kind of a more open feel here. We've eliminated a few spaces kind of to the back right of this area to open up what feels like a very long and narrow lobby space right now. Upgraded finishes, all the graphics that you see in these on the wall are placeholder. We're working through the design of those with Dr. Nicholson and our team to really hone in some of the details. So any of the graphics that you see in these images are just kind of placeholder for now. But you see on the left-hand side there an opportunity for a large display that could either be broadcasting the sporting events going on in the gym, even something going on in the field, so students that are gathering before practice in the gym lobby can watch a field hockey game that's going on out in the fields while they wait. So just a nice kind of interactive opportunity to kind of cross-pollinate a little bit between the different athletics teams. Some of the feedback that we got in some of our student sessions were that it'd be nice to have some places to kind of sit down and study or socialize, before practice, after school, and those kind of down times. If you've ever walked through these spaces before or after school, you'll see students sitting on the floor, backs against the wall, trying to scribble on their notebooks. So trying to provide an array of both built-in and flexible furniture in these spaces for both student and community use. In this rendering here, kind of directly in the center, you can see the entrance to the new fitness center. So that's that J-Pod addition we discussed earlier. Trying to provide some transparency, so there's a level of interaction both from the inside and outside. You can see the daylight that kind of comes in through that fitness room space. So it's going to be a really great, modernized and well-utilized space on the first floor of the athletics area here. Next slide, please. So then working further back into the gym lobby, you can kind of see the before shot of the existing Hall of Fame area. We thought it'd be nice to really kind of try to integrate the space a little bit more into the gym lobby itself as, still its own space, but an extension of that, and provide opportunities for display and, honoring of the athletics, both current and past. Still a lot of details to work through in terms of, how and what is displayed in this space, but the idea is that it's its own kind of extension of the gym lobby and has a little bit more, I'll say, pizzazz than it does currently.
Mr. Weiss, I have to pause here and bring everyone's attention. I don't believe this was intentional. If it was brilliant. But you will see on the mural on the left-hand side of the wall there is a basketball player. That's Norm G. I think that is Dr. G's son in the mural there. Eric, if you did that on purpose.
That is a happy accident, but congratulations.
Yeah, how about that? I just saw that now, and I've looked at this 10 times.
When I said the images weren't final, that was except for this one. This one's written in stone.
Him, AKA Mama's Love. He's not at high school right now, so I can say that. He's far away in another state in college. That is him. So thank you for including
You can let him know he's going on the wall. That's great. All right, you can jump to the next slide, please. And just another view of the Hall of Fame area there. And again, kind of looking at some of the seating areas beyond and the fitness center to the far distance there. Next slide. So those were the design updates. I don't know if we want to pause here quickly. Are there anything anybody wants to go back to look at? Any questions on any of the design currently?
Mrs. Bromwich, can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Mrs. McMurtry.
Hi, so thank you so far for the presentation. And on a lighter note, I'm happy to see that the colors and the materials do not look like when I was in high school, because now I'm showing my age. But the dark greens and the dark paneling and all of that, I'm glad to see is gone. So I appreciate that. I also want to comment on, and I think you said it as well, that the accessibility, and I think it was in the chorus area, but also in I forget which pod it was for this third phase, that there'll be accessibility for all students much, much better going forward with the different designs and the tables and the chairs. Is that fair? It'll be much more fluid for them and safer, I would think.
Yes, absolutely. Some of the accessibility items that, we've tackled go from, the full infill of some of those band rooms, and it'll come down to the furniture layout in these classrooms. When we looked at the FCS spaces, appropriately sizing some of those workstations. So not only is there a place for a student to, work at while they're in that class, but also to safely and easily navigate to and from those spaces. So from the big picture down to some of those smaller detail items, we've really tried to take that into consideration in all the areas.
Yeah, this board has been focused and committed to making sure that the design and access is available to all students for this high school project. So we appreciate you focusing on that for us.
Sure, thank you.
Could I ask a
Yes.
question? So just thank you for the photos. I'm very much like a picture person, so this is helpful in the sense that I really like how wide the hallways are, because thinking about just the accessibility for our students and just the widening of the hallways are huge, even just in between classes, them trying to get to classes. I was looking at the student involvement pages, and it looks like we have student involvement up until August 13th, 2025. Are there additional opportunities as you move along in the project based on the areas that you're in to get feedback, or have we kind of gotten to the point where we would be in terms of, I see on the
Next
the
slide.
last slide where it
Yeah.
says future involvement. So those will involve, because we had a lot of feedback, which has been great from our Enact Club. So there'll be some additional, like when we get to the theater part, we'll be able to engage with our students to determine what will best support them and what they're doing. Like, is that how the idea is? And I guess this is probably partially also for Dr. Nicholson as well. Is that the idea?
Yes. Yeah, and I'll let Dr. Nicholson jump up if he wants to add anything. But we've had a number of sessions with students, specifically in the performing arts and athletics area, because that's there's just a really good sense of feedback and community within those groups, especially in some of the commons areas and how they use them before and after school. We have the end user meetings that focus on the faculty and staff needs within the classroom spaces, storage requirements, display areas, things like that. But when it comes down to some of those more public spaces that students are using to socialize and gather in, that's where that feedback becomes really important, because it's a little less tangible than saying, I need 4 shelves and a bookcase or whatever. So that's where that feedback has really come in handy, and you'll see some of the additional items we can go through in a minute, but I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think you answered the question pretty well, but some of these things that are on here in the future involvement have actually started to some extent. Mr. Weiss and I were actually just talking earlier today. They have a student that's doing a mentorship with them throughout this school year, looking at the different aspects of engineering. We have already had some conversations with Chip with bringing student involvement in. We're talking about bringing Shield students over, and again, that's a pilot that just started maybe a week and a half ago, but looking at how we can get elementary students involved in the building that will be done and completely renovated when they come up to the high school. So kind of building that enthusiasm there and learning on the ground and just involving students in these phases. Now that they see it's happening, there's a lot more excitement. Early on, when we started to bring students in, renovation, what renovation, right? They're so, I guess, tunnel vision on what they're doing and involved in what they're doing that, now that they see that it's going on. I actually walked a student around in the building today who's involved in photography and involved in our Accolade yearbook, and that will start to gain involvement as well. The night crier, bringing students in to do those things. So this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. We've been talking about other ways to get students involved, but it is a priority now that we are started with the renovation to really have them involved in this throughout.
Thank you. I just had one second question, sorry, Mr. Hassan, and that was just, Dr. Nicholson, you probably want to come back up, sorry. It's definitely more of a programming / design. I mean, we've continued this board to talk about the importance of career readiness, and that all students aren't necessarily going on to college, and that it's our job more than ever to make sure that our students have these opportunities. And so we've talked about how spaces can be used for dual purposes. And I know that wasn't necessarily reflected completely but I'm just wondering when in that, like, where in that project or in the project we'll start to see some of that, some of those spaces that we can use for some of those purposes, and are we thinking about that? Because over the course of, when is the final date? This is going to be 2031, right?
2031.
I'm just thinking about that. That's, 6-7 years from now. And so 7 years from now, we're even going to be in a different place as it relates. It's going to be even more expensive for them to get a trade or go to college. And so, like, we've really got to be thinking 7 years ahead. So I'm just wondering, I know that you've been thinking and talking about this. I'm wondering where we are with some of that.
Sure, absolutely. And I think, the goal is to get that involvement going. I think you hit the nail on the head with the North Monaco Technical Career Center visits. I think that's a big piece. Our students that are involved in the trades, making sure they see this work as it's happening. Realistically, we're about 2 weeks into this school year, and it started right at the end of last school year. So I'm in constant contact with Dr. Monastra over at the tech school. We'll be probably picking those conversations up at the end of this month just to see when they're settled in, when we're settled in, when we can start doing some of that. But I think you're exactly right. It's ultra important to get those students that may not be moving on to college, maybe moving into a trade, to see this. I mean, it's real world, hands-on. This is how you apply the trade in the real world. It's happening right in the building that they spend 4, 5, 6 periods a day in. So we should be involving them in that. So as soon as things kind of settle in this school year, we'll be looking at how we can involve that.
Thank you.
Sure.
If I may. And thank you for the descriptions, and it helps all of us to have these visuals. I think it's important at this great time of year for local democracy, as this community has discussions about the renovation, it's important for us to all challenge each other, to bring the facts and some really good constructive criticism to the table. I think this board is more than willing to listen. And that way we can get beyond bells and whistles or vague statements about things that I don't see in these images or in these updates. When it comes down to inclusive spaces, it's essential for us to have those updates. When it comes down to open spaces, which I don't know why they get derided, it's part of modern education, and it actually adds to not only the vibrancy and the welcoming atmosphere, but part of the crime prevention through environmental design. I don't want to get technical and bring my career into it, but it's really important for us to understand what that means in these spaces. And we shouldn't be held back by having the ability to challenge each other. But when we're talking about lighting and paint and finishing, that, if you look at the overall budget, is nominal compared to the systems upgrades and what is being done for all students and community members. The circulation, and to hear you address the clog, that is vitally important to this community to ensure that the school is even safer than it is now. That's not bells and whistles. And the branding, wherever that may come out, the modern technology, these are the type of things that, once again, I don't think they're bells and whistles. I'm not one who's going to renovate a basement with shag carpeting and wood paneling and keep it when I decide for the 21st century we need something different for our students. And so when we have the community conversation, let's actually bring some details. What are the bells and whistles? What is the lack of quality that we can accept when I hear about high quality investments? The reason why we're at K-Pod is that it's falling apart faster than the original building. And there's a point that we've learned here in facilities and operations over many years, not just campaign season, that if people sit and listen, they would realize the history of deferred maintenance and that we can't cut corners because the taxpayers ultimately pay in the end. So thank you for bringing this to light and to fruition. And I just love how this is student and staff informed. Not some Gen X or some boomer or people who have no idea what future students and those and our staff now in our buildings need. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
As chair of the Tech Center, I realize how much of the updates that are done to the tech center are actually done by the students. They've done the lighting at the tech center. They've updated the electrical panels at the tech center. They've done numerous projects to keep the tech center updated as part of their work studies, so to say. So I would like to see if it's possible for some of our tech students to help with some of the updates at the high school itself going forward. Thank you.
I have a question. It's probably rather superficial compared to the others' comments that I appreciate very much. When I'm looking at these design concepts, and in particular the branding and the paint and whatnot, and the things I think that are designed to give students a sense of pride in the institution that they're in, I noticed that we have the Hall of Fame for our athletes, right? But we also have a student media that wins Emmys, right? We have a music program, an art program that is equally deserving of a space that honors those accomplishments from those groups. I'm just wondering, is there a space somewhere as well in the building that's going to honor their achievements?
Yeah, one of the areas that we didn't show images of tonight, we're still working on designing, but the items that you mentioned are part of the overall design for it, is the entry lobby at the CF addition. So coming off of C-Lot, there's a new, basically, performing arts entry at that spot that has opportunities for display and those sorts of things, as well as opportunities within the auditorium lobby itself.
Great, thank you.
Great questions, and really a great update and a great presentation, so thank you all so much for that. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I would just like to briefly introduce Bill Hambley from CHA. He's our new boots on the ground project manager from CHA. Joined us on Wednesday, Bill?
Correct.
Yeah, so just welcome. We're pleased to have you here, and I hear great things so far. And you have a tough evaluator over there, so he's still smiling. That's good. So good to have you, Bill. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you so much for coming to our meeting, and thank you for being a part of this project. So this is an effort that means a lot to all of us sitting here, but our entire community. It's a project that's long overdue, and one that our students really do deserve. So we're grateful for that. Okay, so thank you.